Hello everyone, today we're learning Mציעא Daf Ches. We're going to start from about 6 lines down. Omar Romi Bar Choma Zoisemeres. Romi Bar Choma says from the Mishnah that we see that two people are fighting over a talis, and we say that the din is they make a shvua and they split the talis between them. We could see a din that Amagbia Mציעא Lechaveroi Kona Chaveroi. Meaning that if I pick up a hefka item in the street, I find a watch or anything, whatever I find, and I pick it up and I say instead of that I want to be zoiche in this, I want Reuven, should belong to Reuven. So it goes to Reuven. How do I know it says Romi Bar Choma? Because when they are both holding the talis, if I can't pick up, if Reuven, let's say, and Shimon come and picked up the talis together, if Reuven can't pick up the talis for Shimon and Shimon can't pick up for Reuven, so it's still like on the floor. It's like if I picked up a talis and half of it's still on the floor, it's not considered I picked it up. It has to do akbar, to do a kinyan, it has to be totally in the air. And since Shimon's still holding on to it, so it's not called a good akbar, and Shimon's akbar is also not good because Reuven's holding on to it. So how is it in the Mishnah we say achluku that belongs to both of them? Later on the Gemara is going to discuss exactly where in the Mishnah we know it from, which part of the Mishnah. It must be that a person could pick up a mציעא for someone else, and therefore Reuven's helping Shimon over his akbar and Shimon's helping Reuven over his akbar. That's the din of Romi Bar Choma. Says Rava, no, really I'll tell you that if Reuven picks up a mציעא for Shimon, it doesn't become Shimon. You can't pick up a mציעא for someone else. And we'll see later on why not. And you know why over here in the Mishnah it works? For a different reason, because migu de zochil lenafshei zochil lami lechavrei. And it means, migu means since. Since I am zoiche in half and I could be zoiche in it, I could also be mezakeh for my friend. I mean, Rava argues and says that if Reuven picks up a whole item for Shimon, it doesn't work. But if Reuven zoiche a little bit in himself, because he's zoiche in half, then he could be mezakeh Shimon also half. And the Shimon the same, because he's zoiche in half, he could mezakeh Shimon, Reuven the other half. And therefore that's why it works in the Mishnah. So the machlokes between Romi Bar Choma and Rava will be in a case where you pick up all for someone else. You pick up the whole mציעא for someone else. The fear Rava that someone else won't be zoiche. And if you're Romi Bar Choma, you will be zoiche. Says Rava, I'll bring you a Aryeh. If Reuven tells Shimon, go steal for me, and Shimon listens to Reuven and he goes and he steals, so we don't consider that the stolen item belongs to Reuven and the Reuven the ganev. No, ein shlech ledvar avera. You can't send a messenger to do something evil, and therefore Shimon, he is the one who stole. It doesn't go after Reuven. But in the other case, if they both stole, shutfim shagon, Reuven and Shimon stole together. And I'm going to go with Tosfos' pshat that they both went into Levi's property and picked it up together and ran away. So they are koina. What's pshat? You can see over there clearly they don't say I'm biagneva lechavera kona chavera, but still when they do it together it does work. What's the difference? It must be, says Rava, that we could see they say migu de zochel nafshe zochel chavrei. If I am zoiche in part of it, if I become ownership in part, I could also give part of the ownership to someone else. But if I want to give the whole ownership to someone else, you can't. And you can see that clearly from Gneva. So Rava says. Says Rava, now that we said, meaning that I said, and we were showing him explain, meaning that everyone agreed to me, that we say migu de zochil nafshe zochil chavrei, that because I, being koine part of this talis, I could be makna to someone else another part of the talis. So if a clever man, a normal person, and a cherish, a deaf person, and the din in the Gemara, cherish someone who's deaf doesn't have a kinyan, that he can't really have ownership. But mitakonas Chazal from Rabbanon, mitaken mipnei darkei shalom, that they do have ownership, because if not, a deaf person, wherever he owns, wherever he has, someone's going to come and grab off him. So Rabbanon mitaken that he could own things, but it's only with the Rabbanon. Says Rava, if a cherish and a pikeach picked up a mציעא together, so also there'll be koina, because the cherish is koina, also the pikeach will be koina. And that the Gemara asks obvious question. Very good, the cherish could be koina because the pikeach who knows how to be koina picked it up for him. But how is the pikeach koina? The pikeach didn't do a proper akbar because it's still on the floor. Why? Because the cherish is holding it in his hands. It's not in the air. And the cherish doesn't have the ability to be koina for someone else. He only has the ability to be koina for himself. Takonas rabbanon, but not to be koina for pikeach. Doesn't make sense. Why the pikeach koina? So the Gemara no. So we're changing what Rava says. Really, the cherish is koina and the pikeach is not koina. And if so, what's a migu? What's a sin? Since the cherish, the pikeach's koina, the pikeach's not koina. So the Gemara, the migu means since two chereshim, two deaf people, if they picked up a mציעא, they're koina because of takonas chazal. So this cherish will also be koina. Says the Gemara, hayomi, it doesn't make any sense. If you want to tell me that someone could pick up a mציעא for someone else and he'll be koina, that's if when he picks it up for him, that's if he could be koina for himself. But here, for himself, he's not koina because he has the cherish with him. We said the pikeach's not koina. So how will he be maknet to someone else? It doesn't make any sense. The whole if I could be koina something for myself, so we could discuss if I could be mizaket also to someone else. But if I myself can't be koina, the pikeach, because the cherish is holding and it's not considered akbar, so how is he maknet to the cherish? He himself can't be koina. How will he be maknet to someone else? It makes no sense. So says Rava, so says the Gemara, no. Really, we change our mind and we need to say because the pikeach is not koina, so therefore the cherish is also not koina. Because no one picked it up for him. What the pikeach picked up for him is not considered because he can't even pick it up for himself. And if you're going to ask me why the difference from two cherishim who picked up a mציעא, the rabbanon one attacking them, that they're koiner, it's also over here when the cherish picked up with someone else, with a pikeach, he should also be koiner half. So the Gemara, no. Normally, when two cherishim pick up rabbanon attacking, that they'll be koiner, that a third person shouldn't come and grab it off them and they'll get into a big fight. So we said they're koiner it. But over here, we're not choishes they'll get into a fight because the cherish is going to see that also the pikeach, the normal person wasn't koiner. So he says, okay, if pikeach's not koiner, why should I be koiner? He won't be upset. He'll understand he's normal like everyone, like the pikeach's not koiner. He's also not koiner. And therefore, no one's koiner. But two cherishim, if they won't be koina and someone else could grab it off them, they're going to say, hey, why did the other two people be koina? Okay, so we come to a conclusion that the din, the cherish and pikeach pick up together, both of them are not koina. Said Rav Acha, the son of Ada to Rav Ashi, going back to the din of Romi Bar Choma early on, they said that we could see from our Mishnah, he asked him, where exactly from the Mishnah do you see this din? If you're going to tell me it's from the first case in the Mishnah, that it says Shnai Mochzin Batali Zayman Untosiyah and the din is Yachloiku. Over there, Reuven saying, I picked up the whole thing. Shimon says, I picked up the whole thing. And now we say Yachloiku, but we don't see that they picked it up together and it works. That one could pick it up for the other one. Each one says, I picked up the whole thing. We don't know who picked it up first, so we split it. We don't see over there that Reuven has ability to be koina something for Shimon. What's the raya from over there? So I'll tell you where the raya from. It's from the next stage, because the Mishnah had to remember we had two stages. Anim tosiyah, v'ema kula sheli, v'ema kula sheli. From that part, kula sheli is extra. Why is the Mishnah telling you this extra part of kula sheli and v'ema kula sheli? It must be the Mishnah's coming to tell you from the extra part to tell you that Reuven could be makbiya mציעא for Shimon. On that, the Gemara, but didn't we say that anim tosiyah is talking about mציעא, kula sheli is talking about by mekach umemkar, by people who are buying an item. So it's not extra. You're saying it's extra. It's not extra. We needed to tell you that the same din applies by two people who are arguing who bought the item. Said the Gemara, okay, it's not from this case. It's from the next case. From the case where Reuven says Kula Shali and Shimon says half is mine. So why do we need this extra case? And Tosfos explains that it's more from just from the extra case. It's from actually the one who's being koina half. How is he koina? How are you koina half? It must be that you picked it up with your friend together, and you plan to pick it up together. So if I'm like so you shouldn't be koina anything. Why do we see that you do get a quota? It must be that it works. Says the Gemara, mציעא, how do we know that this is talking about mציעא? Maybe the case where one says the whole thing belongs to him, and Shimon says only a half belongs to him. Maybe it's talking about b'mekach u'memkar, when they bought it together, and Shimon says he only bought half, and Reuven said he bought the whole thing. And if you're going to ask me if it's talking about by mekach u'memkar, what's the chiddush? Why do I need another case of mekach u'memkar? It's extra. I'll tell you what you need it for. I might have thought that the one who says only half's mine, Shimon, should be believed without a shvuah. Because if he's a liar, he could have said, all of it is mine. So l'chora we could see he's not a liar, and he's saying only half's mine, and that's the chiddush. And l'chora the din should be, we should trust Shimon, and he should be believed on his quota without a shvuah. Tells you the Mishnah, no, he does need to make a shvuah, because this guy might be cheating. He might think to himself, wait, if I say everything's mine, I'm going to have to make a shvuah, the half's mine. You know what? I don't want to make a shvuah because it's a lie. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say half's mine, and then they're going to say, oh, this guy's talking the truth. He could have said everything's his, and now he said half's his, so he's believed without a shvuah. And therefore, he'll save himself a shvuah. But really, he's trying to cheat away out of shvuah. So that's why the chiddush of the Mishnah, that in such a case, you still need to make a shvuah to tell you that we're choishesh, that the guy's trying to cheat. So you need this case to tell you by mekach u'memkar kula shali v'chetzia shali. So where does Rami bar Chama know his din? So the Gemara, I'll tell you where he knows his din. From the later case of the Mishnah, that they're both riding on an animal, why do we need to tell you this extra case? We know already achloiku by a talis. So l'chora the same thing applies by an animal. So from the extra Mishnah writing this extra case, it must be coming, Rami bar Chama understood that it's coming to tell you that magbiya mציעא l'chavera kona chavera. The Gemara doicher it and says, no, maybe the chiddush of Shtayim Roichim al Gabe Beima is coming to tell you that someone's riding on a Beima, that's called a Kinyan, and a Roichev is Koina. That's a chiddush, not that magbiya mציעא l'chavera kona chavera. So the Gemara, you know what? I'll tell you where it comes from. In the last case of the Mishnah, it says that if they both agree, or that they have witnesses that they picked up together, they split without a shvuah. What are we talking about? If it's talking about a business deal that they both agree that they bought, Reuven and Shimon agree that they bought off Levi together this talis, what's the chiddush? Obviously, Reuven and Shimon could be shutfim and buy a talis together. What's the chiddush of the Mishnah? It must be coming to tell you that Tzoma b'mציעא, and the chiddush is that if they admit that they picked up together, we say split without a shvuah, or none of them is koina, because it's still in the other person's hands. Reuven didn't do akbar because it's still in Shimon's hand. Shimon didn't do akbar because it's still in Reuven's hand. Elomai, from here Rami bar Chama understands that a magbiya mציעא l'chavera kona chavera, that Reuven could pick up a talis and say Shimon should be zoich in it, and Shimon will be zoich in it. So that's where Rami bar Chama knows his din. Says a Gemara, and Rava, who doesn't agree with Rami bar Chama, tells you know why they're koiner it? Because migu de zochi lenafshe zochi nami lechavre, that since he's koiner half himself, he can be mizake half to the other person. Both ways, Reuven and Shimon. But if Reuven wants by himself to be koiner the whole thing for Shimon, then it won't work, says Rava. Okay, now I understand where Rami bar Chama knows his din from, and how Rava is going to explain that part of the Mishnah, Leshitosai. It says in the Mishnah that two people are riding on a donkey, the same din applies, and each one says it's all mine, the same din applies, that we may have to make a shvuah, and they split it between them. Says Rabbi Yosef, he said, I heard from Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda told me, on the base, that he heard from Shmuel two things. That what? The rider and the leader of an animal, one of them is considered a Kinyan, and one of them is not considered a Kinyan. Says Rabbi Yehuda, I heard, and I don't know which one is koina and which one is not koina. I heard Shmuel told me that a rider and a leader of an animal, one is koina and one is not koina, but I don't know which one is koina and which one's not koina. Says the Gemara, what are we talking about? If it's talking about a rider by himself who's trying to do a kinyan and a leader by himself, does anyone hold that a leader by himself is not koina? For sure, we know that a leader, Meshicha, it's considered pulling the animal as a proper kinyan. So, how could it be that you don't know which one's not koina? It must be that the rider is not koina. So, says the Gemara, it must be talking about not that a rider and a leader by themselves, so trying to do a kinyan. It must be talking about that the rider and the leader both on the same time try to do a kinyan. And we want to know what's better. Is the one who's riding considered a better kinyan because he's holding on it? Not only he's holding on the animal, his legs are around the animals. Or maybe the one who's pulling it, he's a stronger kinyan because the animal's going because of him. And the animal's moving because of him. And we know that moving the animal, that's a kinyan. So who is stronger? So, okay, so we know now, Rabbi Yosef heard b'shem Rabbi Yehuda, that he heard b'shem, that Shmuel told him that Rochel Manig, one is koina and one's not, and he doesn't know which one. So, and we understand that it's talking about where they were both trying to do a kinyan together. So Rabbi Yosef said that Rabbi Yehuda told me, I don't know, Shmuel didn't tell me clearly which one is koina and which one's not, but let's work out this riddle by ourselves. Because it says in the Mishnah, talking about kilayim, you're not allowed to take a cow and a donkey and put them together and tie them together and plow the field. So it says in the Mishnah, manik, someone who leads a donkey and a cow, kilayim, so if he gets arboim, he gets malchus because he does a lav of kilayim. It says in the Mishnah, vayoshev bakorin, the one who sits in the carriage, and the cows are working, the cow and the donkey are working in the field, also gets arboim. So it doesn't matter if a person leads the animal by pulling them, doesn't matter if he leads the animals by sitting in the carriage, he gets 40 malchus for being over the lav of kilayim. And it says in the Mishnah, Rameh holds that a person who sits in the carriage is not considered someone who leads the animal, and therefore he doesn't get malchus for sitting in the carriage. And now Shmuel, since Shmuel turns over this Mishnah and he turns over the Shittis and he says the Chachomim, who are the one who say, in our Gilser in the Mishnah it says the Chachomim hold, doesn't matter the leader, doesn't matter the person in the carriage gets arboim. And Shmuel turns over and it says no, the Chachomim pata the one who is in the carriage. Now, says Rabbi Yehuda, why did Shmuel turn it over? Because he wanted to go lefi alocha, lefi chachomim. So he wanted to go lefi chachomim. The chachomim are the ones who say that the one who's in the carriage is not, doesn't get malchus, and that's the alocha that Shmuel wants to go with. So we could see from here that since Shmuel said the one in the carriage doesn't get malchus, lefi chachomim, lefi the alocha, so we could see Rochuv is not koina. Even by himself, Rochuv is not koina. Someone who rides an animal, Rabbi Yehuda understands that there's no difference between someone in the carriage and someone who's riding the animal on the animal. So like the one in the carriage doesn't get malchus because he's not considered leading these animals, so also the one who rides animals also not considered the person who's leading these animals, and therefore Rochuv is not koina even by himself. For sure when he's trying to do a kinyan with manik, So we worked out, Shmuel said one is koina and one is not koina. We know the case, we explained they must be tuma when they're doing it together. And we know that Shmuel meant that roichev is not koina and manik is koina. Till here, very good. And this, like we said at the beginning, Abaye, Rav Yosef told Abaye, Rav Yosef said in the name of Rav Yehuda, that Rav Yehuda had the name of Shmuel. So Abaye was sitting over there and he told Rav Yosef, many times you told us this sugya. And you said, let's work it out ourselves. And you brought this raya from the Mishnah, why did Shmuel turn over Chachomim and Rameh? But you never said this in the name of Rabbi Yehuda. And now suddenly, you're saying that Rabbi Yehuda brought the raya. What's going on? So Rabbi Yosef told Abaye, true, it's true what you're saying. Really, until now I said it by myself, and now I'm saying the shame of Rabbi Yehuda, because really Rabbi Yehuda is the one who told it to me. And I also remember that when we spoke about this, Rabbi Yehuda brought the raya from the Mishnah, and that Shmuel turned over, and he also told me a kasha on that. I told him a kasha on it. How could you bring me a raya from the case of the Mishnah of the person who's sitting in the carriage of the kilayim to someone who's literally sitting on the animal? The one who's sitting on the animal is much stronger than the one who's sitting in the carriage. Why? Because he's holding on the reins. And therefore, it's more of a kinyan, it's more of a maisa. Maybe there he will be chayav for kilayim, maybe there it is a kinyan. So Rabbi Yehuda answered me on that kasha that Rav and Shmuel, they both hold that Mosera holding on the reins is not kinyan. And therefore it doesn't make a difference, the person in the carriage or the person who's on the animal, that is holding on the reins makes no difference. Now there's another way, Ikadarmi, that this kasha, not Rabbi Yosef asked Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda answered him. No, Abaye is the one who asked Rabbi Yosef, how can you, Rabbi Yosef, bring me a raya from someone in the carriage to someone who's riding the animal? Someone who's riding in the carriage is not holding on the reins, and someone who's sitting on the animal is holding on to the reins. And Rabbi Yosef said the same teretz, just b'shem someone else, that Idi, who's the name of a Tana, told me that Mosera is not kinyan. Holding on to the reins is not kinyan, so therefore there's no difference between in the carriage or sitting on the animal. And we learned the same thing that Rav Chalboi said in the name of Rav Huna, that holding on to the reins is koina only if it's Reuven buying off Shimon an item or getting a present off Shimon, someone's giving it over the reins, then is koina. But if it's something that's hefka, like Mציעא, or property of a ger that died and left no one, you're not koina. And what the reason? And like we said, because this is a riot where we said that Mosera is not kinyan, only between people, but not when you're trying to be koina from the hefka. And says the Gemara, why is the Lashon Mosera? What's the Lashon reins? In Hebrew, Mosera is Lashon Moisa. Omar Rav explains that Idi explained it to him. It's like someone who passes something from each other. Mosera is Lashon Moisa, to give over. So, like a Moisa who gives over someone's property to the government. So it means to give over. So therefore, reins are like giving over. So from your friend, when your friend gave it over to you, so there's a kinyan because someone gave it over to you. But by Mציעא or something that's hefka, like Nichse Ager, who gave it over to you? There's no kinyan. The only kinyan works by Mosera when someone gives it over to you. But if you didn't get it over from someone, there's no kinyan. Okay. So now we understand, Shmuel said that the roichev is not koina. Said the Gemara Kasha, we learned in our Mishnah, two people riding the animal. And we said the choylek. So who does this Mishnah go like? We had a machloikis bit before about kilayim. Does a person who's sitting in the carriage, does he get malchus or not? Is he over issa kilayim or not? So who is this? Our Mishnah, but Mציעא Daf Beis, who is it going to? With? Is it Rameh? Can't be. Because Rameh holds that the person in the carriage gets malchus. So if already the person who sitting in the carriage gets malchus, and that means it's like considered a kinyan because he's moving the animal. So for sure, someone who's sitting on the animal, what does Rameh need to tell me? Rameh already tells me that we learn already from the Mishnah in Kilayim, the person in the carriage, and it's considered Kilayim and it's considered a kinyan. So why do we need to tell me, Baba Mציעא, that someone's on the animal? For sure, someone's on the animal. It's much stronger than being in the carriage. So it must be that the Mishnah over here is Rabbanon. Olechur over there, Rabbanon said that the person in the carriage doesn't get malchus. So we could see from here that there's a difference. That there is a difference between someone who's in the carriage and someone who's on the animal. Over there, Rabbanon said he's part of a malchus because he's just in the carriage. But over here, they're sitting on the animal. Then it is good, and therefore you will get malchus, and therefore you will be koina. And it's not like what Shmuel said before, that roichev is not koina. Said the Gemara, no. Here, the person who's roichev is talking about where he's hitting the animal with his legs. He's banging on the animal with his legs. So since he's banging the animal on the legs, he's making the animal move for sure. And it's just like someone who's pulling the animal, who's not on the animal and pulls the animal with a string, he's koina. That we know for sure that manig is koina. So also this person is koina. Says the Gemara, if that's what it's talking about, where he's banging the animal with the legs and the animal's moving because of him, it's exactly like a leader. It says in the Mishnah that if two people were riding an animal, one was riding and one was leading, so this is exactly like leading, the people who are sitting on the animal. Says the Gemara, yeah, enochinami, it's like a manig, but it's two types of manig. It's two types of leaders. One is pulling the animal with the string, and one's pulling the animal by kicking it, by sitting on it and kicking it. You might have thought that in a case where one's sitting on it and one's leading with the string together, that the one who's sitting on it and kicking the animal, he's better and only he will be koina, because he's not only making the animal move, he's also sitting on it. It's better than just pulling on it. Komashmal on the Mishnah, no, that they both consider the same kinyan, and therefore they're both koina and not only one of them. And therefore there's no kasha on Shmuel who said that a roichev that's not banging the animal is not koina. Because if he doesn't make the animal move, he just sits on it, you're not koina. But the Mishnah where it says by us that you're koina is talking about where he's kicking the animal and he's making the animals move and therefore he's a manig. Shkoyach.